these are the intarsia mittens that I am going to show you how to make. So these ones start from the thumb. So you first work the thumb in this diagonal increase and then go around and then join the thumb and then fasten off and finish there. You start from here and you make a chain and then you work your way on the thumb all the way to the cuff, and then you work in this direction all the way around the hand, and then you join at this end again and with the thumb again. Alright, they're actually really easy to work, and they're very simple, but the trickiest part is the thumb and the start of the hand. So today I'm going to work with you how to make the thumb and how to start the hand, and at the end how to join it. Okay? So if you don't know how to work the double slip stitch, I'm going to leave a link for that stitch here, so make sure you watch it. This video shows you how to make this stitch and how to make the color changes. I will go over the color changes on this, but if you want to refresh yourself or if you want to work your gauge swatch, I would recommend learning that stitch first and then coming back here and working this with me. Alright, so the thumb starts with a chain. So we're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then I'm going to skip the first chain and I'm going to increase on the second chain. So 1 and 2, because I increase 1, right? So I have 2 stitches, and then I'm going to double slip stitch to the end of the row. At this point I have 7 stitches, and this first one is a little bit hard sometimes to find. So if you are not sure you're going to be able to find that V for you to know where to mark it, where to use it, I would use a marker on the first stitch of every row, and that way you will always be able to identify that last stitch when you reach it. Now on row 2, which is on the wrong side, we're going to work double slip stitch on the back loop only all the way to the end and increase 2 on the last stitch. So on the back loop only, remember that is the V, if you can see it. So there is my V on the top of the stitch, and I work on the back only. And I'm going to double slip stitch on the back loop only to the last stitch of the row. Alright, so this is my last stitch. Like I told you, it can be a little bit hidden, but you can see the V there. And I'm going to increase 2, so I work a double slip stitch on this stitch, and then I work a foundation double slip stitch in the same hole. So I yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 1, hold on to it, then pull through the other 2 loops, yarn over, insert hook in that held loop, and pull through loop and all loops on my hook. And that's it. If you want more information on how to do increases and decreases using double slip stitch, you should definitely check out this other video over here, because on that one I go through all of the different increases and decreases on this using this stitch. Okay, then after this we increase 2 on the first stitch, so I chain 2 actually, and I make 2 double slip stitches on that second chain. So I have increased 2 at the beginning of the row, and then I finish to the end with double slip stitch on the back loop only. Alright, so at this point I have 11 stitches, And the previous 2 rows are the ones that are going to set pattern. So on the next row, I'm going to increase at the end of the row, and then the following row, I'm going to increase at the beginning of the row. So I will only increase at this bottom end, and this top is going to stay flat to shape the thumb. Alright, so I'm going to do that repeat 2 more times, and then I will be right back with you. Alright, so to increase at the end of the row, I finish my row, and then I make a foundation double slip stitch and another slip stitch in that held loop. And then to increase 2 at the beginning of the row, I chain 2, and then I make 2 double slip stitches in that second chain. Alright, so this is what the first half of the thumb looks like. I'm making the small one at the moment, so I have 19 stitches over here, and I have finished all my rows, and as you can see, there's a diagonal going on this side, and over here it's flat. Now on the next row, which is on the wrong side, we're going to repeat our row 2, which means to increase at the end of the row. Alright, now I'm going to increase 2. And now I have 21 stitches. Now I'm going to use a stitch marker, or in this case a piece of yarn, to mark my next stitch, which is a chain. So I'm going to chain 15 for the cuff. If you want the cuff to be any longer, then feel free to chain more or less. Okay, so those 15 stitches are going to be for my cuff. Now I am going to chain 1, and on the way back I'm going to slip stitch on those chain stitches all the way to my marked chain. It is important when you are working a ribbing with slip stitches to keep it really loose, because otherwise it's very difficult to work the next following rows. So keeping your slip stitches loose makes the ribbing less tight and also more elastic and possible to work on the next row. Alright, so I am at my marker, so I'm going to pass it over my yarn and mark that last chain. So now that marker tells me that this is part of the cuff and the rest is part of the thumb of the hand. Alright, and then the instructions say to double slip stitch to the end of the row. So I'm just going to double slip stitch all the way to the top again. Sorry, double slip stitch on the back loop only, right? So all of the stitches are worked on the back loop only. Alright, so now I have one half of the thumb and the beginning of my cuff. Now the next few rows are the ones that are going to be repeated to finish on the other side, and it's going to mirror this angle but on this side. So now I'm going to double slip stitch to 3 stitches before the marker, and then I'm going to decrease 2 at the end. Alright, so there I am, 3 stitches before the marker. Now to decrease 2, I'm going to make a double slip stitch below 2 together. So I'll show you how I do that. Yarn over, insert my hook in the next stitch, pull through, insert my hook in the second stitch, pull through. In this loop that I just pulled through, I'm going to pull through all 3 loops on my hook. Bloop. That's it. And this last stitch will stay empty. That's how I decrease 2 stitches. Then I chain 1 and turn, and now I'm going to decrease 2 at the beginning of the row, which means that I'm going to skip the first stitch, and then I'm going to make a double slip stitch 2 together in the next 2 stitches. So skip 1, 2, and pull through. And that's it. Now I have decreased 2 stitches at the beginning of the row, and I double slip stitch below to the end of the row. Okay, so now I'm going to repeat that and decrease 2 stitches at the end of the row on the next row, and then decrease 2 stitches at the beginning of the row on the following row, until I have a total of 7 stitches. Alright, so those are the last 3 stitches of my row. I'm going to leave the last one empty, and I'm going to make a double slip stitch below 2 together on the first 2 stitches. Now I chain 1, skip the first one, and double slip stitch 2 together in the next 2 stitches. And double slip stitch below to the end of the row. Alright, so I now have 7 stitches at the end. This is my wrong side. This is my right side, so my hook is at the bottom of the row. Now at the end, I'm going to join this end to this end on the wrong side. So I'm going to put them like this, so the wrong side is facing out, and I'm going to chain 1. And I'm going to turn so that I can see my beginning chains here and my stitches over here. So I'm going to skip the first stitch of my last row, and I'm going to join the 6 starting chains to the last 6 stitches. So I need to identify them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is my first one. I insert my hook there. I skip the first stitch. Remember, I go to the next one. Insert my hook on the back loop of that one, and I make a slip stitch. Alright, and then I continue with all the other chains. So number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Remember, you have to use the back loop. Okay, and then I fasten off, and I can cut my yarn now. Alright, so this is what it looks like on the wrong side, and then I just flip it inside out to have it on the right side. And this is going to be the thumb of your mittens, like this. So now we're going to work the hand. Alright, so let's put the thumb down for a minute, and we're going to work the hand in 2 different colors. We're going to use the green, the white, and we will also use color A that we use on the thumb, right? So this is the order in which they go. As you can see on this thumb, we have the dark green, then the white, then the light blue. So C, B, and A. So let's start then. With CB, color B, I will chain 10. Let's move this away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'm going to change colors so that my next chain is white as well. And 10. So those are 10 chains with white, and then I continue with 10 chains in color A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now remember that chains are always much longer than the actual work when you work a row or two, so don't worry if it looks too long at the moment, and don't worry too much if this is very loose over here where the color change happened. Okay, you can tighten it a little bit, but you don't need to worry much about that yet. So now that we have our chain, we're going to work on this diagonal that we made before, and between here, the top of the thumb, and the marker, you need to fit 15 stitches for the small and 19 stitches for the large. Now, where you put them is really up to you, as long as they are pretty well separated and equally distant to each other, then you should be okay. Now, you have 8 rows on this side, I believe, which means that it should be about 2 stitches per row, but really don't worry too much about that. So this is the middle, so I'm going to attach my yarn right next to it. Alright, and I'm going to single crochet 1, and then I'm going to continue single crocheting along this side. I try to get more than one strand where I put my hook in, because if I only put it like on one strand like this, there's a big hole that is made. So I try to take at least 2 strands like this where I can insert my hook and then pull through. So that's 3. This can be a little bit tricky, but you know, be patient. 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, you can see how much there's left, and you have 5 stitches that need to fit in this space. So, you know, just kind of eye it and make them fit. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. There you go. Like I said, it's not an exact science. Feel free to adjust where you put the stitches, as long as you have 15 from the top of the thumb to before the marker. And now you're going to continue to slip stitch on the cuff, right? And we're going to put our marker on there so we know where the cuff starts. And on this side, I'm only going to do it on the unused loop of that starting chain. So it's a little bit hard to find. But again, feel free to adjust to what you can see. Okay. Now remember what I said about keeping your slip stitches loose? That will really come in handy around this part. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Let me show you. So I have my chain that starts here, continues on this side, onto the side of the thumb. You can see it there. And then I finished at the end of the cuff. Now on the way back, I'm going to change colors here, and I'm going to change colors on the last stitch of the row to introduce my color C. Alright, so from now on, my stitch count will never change. It will remain the same. The only thing that will change are the color changes, when the color changes will happen. So let's start with our cuff, and I'm going to slip stitch on the back loop only all the way to the marked stitch. Again, keep your slip stitches really loose. Okay, after finishing my cuff, now I will double slip stitch on the back loop only all the way to one stitch before my white color starts, before my color B starts. Okay, so here I have finished the thumb. Now I'm going to go to the chain. Remember, I chained 10 in color A, so now I'm going to double slip stitch in 9 chains because I need to finish one before the end of this color, right? Now the next stitch is still going to be with color A, but the color changes happen one stitch before the new color. So what I'm going to do now is going to change colors to my color B. So I yarn over, insert my hook, and because this is the wrong side, I'm going to hold my old yarn at the front of my work, and I'm going to pick up my new yarn and pull through the 3 loops on my hook. Now this can be a bit messy here, but you can still see the chains. And you can still see the new color. So then I yarn over, finish one more on the color A chains. Okay, and then I continue to change colors for my last stitch. In this case, there are 9 more chains, right? So okay, so I have 2 more chains at the end. So the next stitch is white, but I need to change colors on that one. So I yarn over, insert my hook, pull my yarn to the front of my work, and I pick up my new color. I finish that stitch with my new color, and I make my next stitch in my new color. Now this is the trickiest part of the whole thing. Once you can get this, you are really set. Okay, and done. So there you go. Now I have 1 stitch in green, 10 stitches in white, and then all the way to the end in my color A, which is this bluey speckled one. Okay, so I'm going to do the next row with you. And now, because we're going down, I'm going to make one extra stitch of that color. So I'm going to go 1 over. So instead of 1, I'm going to have 2, and instead of finishing here, I'm going to finish 1 over this old color. So 1, and on the second I change colors, right? So I drop it on the wrong side. On this occasion, because I'm working the right side, I'm going to leave it at the back of my work. Drop it and find my new color, which is this guy. It can be a little bit tangly with all the ends at the moment, but you know, don't worry about it, just find it and finish my stitch. So now I have 2 stitches in dark green and I continue in white. So all the way to the end of my white section and 1 over. Okay, so this is my last white stitch because the next stitch is green, right? But I want it to be white as well. So I will yarn over, insert my hook in that stitch, drop my white color or my color B, and pick up my new color, which is my color A, and finish that stitch. And then I will finish the row in pattern all the way to the end, which means double slip stitch on the back loop only on the hand, and slip stitch on the back loop only on the cuff. Alright, so I have finished my next right side row and I am at the end. So I slip stitched and then I double slip stitch on the back loop only on the hand part. Now I'm going to turn and work the next row, and what I'm going to do is going to work in pattern again. So slip stitch back loop only on the cuff, and then double slip stitch on the hand up to 1 stitch before the first stitch in white. So what that means is that this white is going to stay white. Now the next one is going to also be white, so that first stitch or the last stitch of color A is going to be a different color now. So we're going to work double slip stitch with color A until 1 stitch before the new color, so that that last color can be a different color. Alright, so let's do that. I'm going to work my cuff and then I'm going to work the color changes on the hand. Okay, here I am 2 stitches before the first stitch with CB, which means I need to change colors on my next stitch, right? So remember, for that I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, and because I'm working on the wrong side, I'm going to put my yarn on the front of my work, and then I'm going to pick up my yarn from the front of my work, and I'm going to finish the stitch with my new color. And this strand will stay at the front of my work, which is the wrong side, right? And then I make my next stitch, which is color A, with my new color, which is color B. And then I do it again on the next color change. So I work until 2 stitches before the first stitch in color C. So with color B, you will always have the same amount of stitches. There will always be 10 in the small, and I think it's 13 in the large. I'm not sure right now. Okay, so now I am 2 stitches before the first stitch in color C, so I will make my color change in the next stitch. Insert my hook, pull my yarn to the front of my work, pick up my new color, and finish my stitch in the new color. And then there is my next stitch. So I will work it, and then I finish my row with color C. So now color C has 3 stitches. Okay, and that's it. Now these previous 2 rows, I will repeat them until half of the hand, so that the diagonal goes in this direction, down. And then when I complete half of the hand, I'm going to do the opposite and work 1 stitch up on the color changes, so that the diagonal goes on this side. So I'm going to work the hand now. You can use the chart in the pattern, or you can use the written instructions as well. And then I will show you how to join at the end of the hand, how to join the cuff to the thumb, and then how to close the hand. Alright, so I'll be back in a bit. Alright, I have now finished the complete hand, and as you can see, there's a V going on and it is quite wide. So what happens is that it needs to be folded over and needs to be sewn together on this side. So we're going to do that on the wrong side. I've put a marker here to mark the end of my cuff, just so that it's easier to identify the cuff stitches from the thumb stitches. And I'm going to turn it inside out as well as the thumb, so that the thumb is also inside out and the wrong side is going to be on the outside. Now the easiest way to identify the wrong side is because in intarsia, because we keep the strand on the wrong side, there are these little marks. While the front, it's quite neat. It's a lot neater than the back. Okay, so this is going to be the wrong side, and this is the right side. So we're going to put it the wrong side out. And this join, you can do it with a tapestry needle, or you can also use a crochet hook and do slip stitches along the way. And you're going to use the color that corresponds to the stitches. So I'm going to use color A to join the cuff, and then I'm going to join the thumb. Remember, on the thumb on the other side I did 15 stitches, so I'm going to do 15 stitches over here as well and attach those to the thumb. And then I'm going to attach these parts of the hand using the ends that I have to match the colors. So in order to make it easier to identify those 15 stitches, I'm going to use another marker. So this marker is for my cuff, and this one is also for the cuff. Now, this one is 15 stitches. So I'm going to put my marker there. And there you go. And these 15 stitches I'm going to attach to the thumb. And then the rest of the hand, I'm going to attach it to itself. So my yarn is in my needle, and I will simply just attach them using the outer loops of the stitches. Alright, so that on the inside, they're still a little ridge. Let me show you how I do it. So there's the stitch. Can you see the V? I'm going to use the outside loop of it and of this one too. Again, if you want to use a crochet hook and do slip stitches, you can also do that, but I find this a little bit easier to do with a needle. Alright, so I join the outer loops. Alright, so that is the last stitch of my cuff, and I can remove the markers now. There you go. And because I'm still working with color A, I'm going to continue with color A, and I'm going to join the next 15 stitches to the thumb. So if you're working the large, these are going to be 19 stitches, I believe, and you're going to join those to the thumb. So I'm going to line it up. Remember that there's no exact science for where the stitches need to go on the thumb, as long as they're evenly distributed. And just like before, I'm going to use the outer loops of the last row of the hand. Okay, on the thumb we want to pick up 2 strands, remember, just like before, just like when we worked the other stitches on the other side. You want to pick up 2 strands at least, so that there are no gaps in the middle. There you go. So I'll join that together, pick up 1 strand from the back, 1 from the front. So you definitely don't want any holes to occur on this part. So try to pick up 2 strands. Now this is my last stitch of the 15th, and I have joined my thumb, and I can remove my marker. And now I am going to join the hand with the stitches on this side. Again, I'm going to use the color that corresponds. So here I have 2 stitches of green, here I only have 1, so I might need to, decide which color is more important. Same here, they're not even. So you really have to just decide where you want to put them, but the idea is very simple. You join the unused loop from the starting chain with the outer loop of the last row on the hand. So I'll show you again if you can see better. So there is my loop from the chain, that's from the starting chain, and then this is my last row of the hand, and I'm going to use the outer loop. This will make it so that there is a ridge at the front. If you use the outer loop only, then there's going to be a nice ridge on the inside, and it's going to look a little bit prettier. Okay, and that's it. Just going to join it now and show you what it looks like. Okay, here I'm going to change to my white. And continue joining them with the white color. And there you go. Now these ends, I'm just going to fast them off on the outside and weave in my ends. And when I flip it over, there it is. I am ready to go.